Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to bring to you these few words: powerful, spiritual, physical, temporal, and otherwise words from Ken Saro-Wiwa, the murdered Ogoni international human rights and environmental justice advocate, murdered by Nigeria alongside 8 of his Ogoni kinsmen on November 10th, 1995. Before he was hanged, during the trial, the kangaroo trial that was instituted by the military and condemned by all reasonable, consensus groups and even government entities globally, alongside human rights and environmental justice organizations. I mean, before the hanging, there was, of course, a trial, an unjust trial, a predisposed trial, a trial that was designed to do the bid of the Nigerian government and did not allow Ken Saro-Wiwa and the rest of the Ogoni people who were unjustly tried and unjustly murdered with him to actually have a fair hearing. And so he wrote and submitted a 40-page defense. And in that defense, he made series of declarations. One is what I am going to read now, because it speaks to the time Nigeria has been in since he was murdered in 1995. Nigeria has been going through one tough time or the other. Nigeria has not actually seen peace, and it predicted it. It predicted that of the Niger Delta militant groups, although he did not specifically say militant group or militancy, but he said whether the peaceful ways I have favored will prevail depend on what the oppressors decide. What signals is stands out in the wedding public. And so years later, the Niger Delta group, Niger Delta youths, decided to take up arms against the Nigerian state, especially trying to stop the flow of oil from the Niger Delta to Nigeria, because it is clear there's no country called Nigeria that has oil. There are groups in Nigeria, ethnic groups in Nigeria, ethnic nations in Nigeria that was forced into the Nigerian contraption by the rogue British imperialists. It is these groups that actually own the oil, that those who call themselves majority in the country, they use draconian laws, military laws by decree to siphon, to steal, to expropriate the lands where oil and gas happen to be found. And so the Niger Delta youths, especially from the Ijaw axis, took up arms against the Nigerian state. And we know what happened then, although they were settled. And also, Goodluck Jonathan came out of it as a vice president and then became president because of the unfortunate death of Yaradua, President Yaradua. So Ken Saro-Wiwa was very vocal and he was very pointed. And so he said, on trial also is the Nigerian nation, its present rulers, and all those who assist them. Any nation which can do to the weak and disadvantaged what the Nigerian nation has done to the Ogoni loses claim to its independence and freedom from outside influence. Let me jump. We all stand before history. My Lord, we are all on trial, for by our actions we have denigrated our country and jeopardized the future of our children as we subscribe to the subhuman and accept double standards, as we lie and cheat openly, as we protect injustice and oppression. We have emptied our classrooms, denigrated our hospitals, filled our stomach with hunger, and elect to make ourselves the slaves of those who subscribe to higher standards. These were the words of Ken Saro-Wiwa in 1995. And it is evident what is happening in Nigeria. A vast majority of places in the north, the classrooms have been emptied. Nigeria as a whole, the people's stomach have been filled with hunger. The leadership is just out of touch and not sure what to do. Not to talk of the Jagabanish Jagaban that happened to be a train wreck, as I described him from the very beginning. And it is evident he's a train wreck because he doesn't know what he's doing. But to the point, if Nigeria had taken the slightest of time to listen to what Ken Saro-Wiwa was saying and try to amend, try to make amends, and try to do justice by the Ogoni people and by other so-called minorities, even though some of them, such as the Ogoni people, the Jaw people, the Ibibio people, and some of those in the Igbo area happen to have oil. Of course, some oil have been found in Lagos, but the bulk of the oil that is in Nigeria being expropriated by the Nigerian state to run or manage and mismanage, ruined by the so-called majority ethnic groups, the Hausa, Fulanis, Yorubas, and the Igbos. It's clear these few groups in the South, Niger Delta, have the bulk of the oil. And so Nigeria think it can continue to cheat, to lie. Politicians think they can continue to be corrupt, to lie, to fill their pockets, while the people, the majority of the people, go hungry why schools are empty, why students are not actually being taught, and all of the exam practices that are all over the place. The whole place is in tatters, it's in ruin. So until Nigeria realizes, of course, it realized what it did to the Ogoni people and other minorities. It realized what it did and has continued to do to the generality of the Nigerian people, especially the weak and the disadvantaged, the poor. Until Nigeria does what is right, until Nigeria rights its wrongs and do right by the people, by the marginalized people, by the Ogoni people, until Nigeria go back to the drawing table, look at the Ogoni Bill of Rights, and look at other proposals that have been put forward, until Nigeria go back to look at the Constitution and recreate the people's Constitution, where the different peoples that make up Nigeria sit down freely to discuss and agree on a people's constitution, a constitution that will govern them, a constitution that will spell out clearly their rights and mechanism to protect such rights, and that constitution that will also spell out the responsibilities of the people. Until that time, when the present military constitution, even though it has been amended on several occasions, has been banished and the people's constitution put in place, following the declaration of Ken Saro-Wiwa, Nigeria has emptied its stomach. Nigeria has rendered the classrooms empty. Nigeria has on its neck the hangman noose that was placed on the neck of Ken Saro-Wiwa and 8 other Ogonis, innocent Ogonis who did nothing but that they were Ogonis. They were from a so-called minority ethnic group, which produced a great deal of the oil that sustained Nigeria from the original oil boom from the 70s, in addition to oil from other parts of the Niger Delta. But what did the Ogoni people get? Pollution, hanging, mass killing, destruction, political gangsterism, the destruction of Mossad by the Nigerian state in collaboration with Shell Oil and the rest of the oil companies. That's what the Ogoni people get. Instead of Nigeria to go back and say, okay, this didn't happen in 1995 during the military era. So now we are civilian government. This is a civilian regime. So let's look at it from the civilian standpoint and right the wrongs. Instead, they have stuck to what was done in 1995 against the Ogoni people and have refused to accord the Ogoni people any respect they are due. Refused to accord Ken Saro-Wiwa and his compatriots who were murdered by hanging innocently any respect and honor they are due. Therefore, until that day, Nigeria The hangman knows it's all over you. And until you see the need to right the wrongs, you're not getting out of it. The Jagabanish Jagaban would even make it worse because it's a train wreck. Thanks, Ben Ikari.